The name of this video is Aliens Among Us, What's Really Going On. The purpose is to inform human beings of planet Earth of the two options that they're facing now at the precipice of humankind or history here on planet Earth. Those two options is evolve or perish. You arrived on this planet through a series of developments. This planet is a composition of souls that existed for millions of years and souls that were deposited here either for negative reasons or positive reasons. My name is Andre Hill. This September the 30th, 2014, I would have completed a 62-year tour of duty on planet Earth. I am not of this world, said Jesus in John 18, verse 23. Neither am I. That was the first instance of extraterrestrials incarnating into human bodies. The positive souls that come here to sacrifice themselves for the purpose of spiritual evolution for this species on this planet. I am not of this world. I am an alien extraterrestrial soul. And if you want to see one close up, just go look in the mirror. That's right. You too, as well, are alien souls to this planet. Have you ever thought about why you need inoculations, vaccines, antibodies? It's because the human species on this planet was developed over hundreds of thousands of years through experiments by extraterrestrials developing or inserting their DNA into female Earth subjects for the purpose of producing a humanoid that was capable of reason and speech. And that's the whole purpose of the crossbreeding with the extraterrestrials and the human beings of Earth. Why did this happen? Earth is a breeding ground, and the so-called Garden of Eden was basically a laboratory, but those metaphors were used because in the early days of human development, we didn't quite understand what artificial insemination was, or a laboratory where they were experimenting with human beings and crossbreeding. We were in a childlike state of mind. So therefore, these metaphors that were listed in our religious doctrines were very limited in explaining who we are and what we are. We get this information, and you will find all the instances of this information in the Bible, in the Quran, and other religious doctrines. It's all a matter of interpretation. For example, in Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 16, a wheel inside of a wheel descending from heaven. In the Old English days, the word heaven was the word that we refer to as sky today. So if an individual 2,000 years ago with a limited amount of experience or scientific or mathematical knowledge saw a wheel inside a wheel descending out of the sky, they automatically thought it was God or angels coming from heaven. Well, in the 60s, when we first started our adventures into space, we were all waiting to see from the films and the cameras if God was situated outside our atmosphere. And we discovered that there was no God situated beyond the clouds. When we went to the moon, we didn't find God on the moon. So then our minds expanded to the outer realms of our atmosphere and our solar system as to say, where is God? And these references are indicators that these beings have been coming here and developing us over a long period of time. Also in 2 Kings chapter 2 verse 11, there's a reference to Elijah Muhammad going up into to heaven on a chariot of fire. And those instances were indicators, and you have to ask the question that, does God need a spaceship? No. So what was going on? Basically, these were beings with advanced technology that came to a planet that was very primitive, and it was cultivated to grow food, to mine for minerals. All of these things were needed by our alien parents for their dying planet, because this same technology that they share with us, it was used to cause them the same problems on their planet that we're having on our planet now, if we don't reverse the trend of the things that we have going on. So Earth is a breeding ground for evolving souls. It's also a prison for misguided souls. And the existing souls, the souls that live on this planet, they have been developing over hundreds of thousands of years. But you have the misguided souls, and you have the component of Christ candidates. And these are the positive souls that are deposited here by extraterrestrials to maintain a balance. So you got the negative and the positive, and then you got the regular Earth humans in the middle that are being manipulated by both of these type of souls. The purpose behind this, and the Supreme Being allowed these things to happen, but the whole purpose of this is it serves three purposes. The negative souls, they get to work out their spiritual imperfections. The positive souls, it's like a final graduate course where they come here and be willing to die for the truth. They're willing to sacrifice themselves for those souls and those earth souls in the middle that are evolving lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So you might ask the question, how does one deposit a soul? I can't answer that question specifically. I have an idea, and I talk about it in my book, The Second Coming. I have an idea that there are advanced devices, just like when there are near-death experiences, the soul escapes into the atmosphere. They may have developed advanced technology to contain souls and then release them for them to incarnate at a specific time. So that technology, when you think about our time frame on this planet from the 1800s to now, we went from the cowboy Indian days to space flight in a matter of 150 years. Where do you think an alien species have gone, or what they've developed over 100,000 or 200,000 years? So that's basically the composition of the human beings on this planet, but it also is part of balance throughout the universe. Solar systems are born every day, and solar systems die every day. The extraterrestrials that brought us here, they are part of the system where their planet may be dying. Their ability to procreate is eroding. So they have to come to a fertile planet with a primitive species like us to continue to hold on as long as they can until they evolve to a high level of consciousness on a non-physical plane. So these are things that we're going to talk about, or you can continue to read about in my book, The Second Coming. The prison for misguided souls. Examples of that is the one with Lucifer, for example. In Isaiah chapter 14, verse 15. Also in Ezekiel 28, chapter 28, verse 16. It talks about Lucifer was cast down from heaven. Again, we're talking about the sky, and was brought here to the planet for committing atrocities in heaven, or starting war in heaven. Well, we've seen in these movies, Star Wars and what have you, and we've seen correlations of how that can happen. But Lucifer is one individual. When you look behind the scenes, you're going to find out that the manipulation of humans and the trials and tribulations was not just by one purpose. It had a divine purpose, or a divine order, for the purpose of developing species, for the purpose of helping misguided souls purify themselves and for the purpose of Christhood candidates. And a Christhood candidate is an individual that comes from another solar system that decided, I'm ready to elevate myself to a higher level of consciousness, and I'm going to incarnate into a human body on this planet, on a primitive planet, and try to teach the humans, the indigenous humans of that planet, the truth about the formulas and the things that you can do to evolve to a high level of acquiring balance. Candidates from Christhood must be willing to die for the truth. They must be willing, no matter how difficult the situation is, how difficult they're disrupting the systems, the hypocritical systems or religious doctrines that these negative extraterrestrials have set up. They must confront it and challenge it by any means necessary, and ultimately demonstrate the desire to die for the truth. And that's the completion of what the Christhood is all about, because you have the option of saying this task is too difficult, and I'm just going to go ahead and take a wife and have some children, and I'm not going to do this here, and then you fail the course. But most Christ beings, most candidates for Christ beings, they understand, because at a specific time they are empowered, activated. In my particular case, in broad daylight, in 1990 in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, I went into the light without a near-death experience, and that experience helped me to see how powerful the supreme being or the supreme consciousness is, and the beauty and the euphoria of being in that light. It compares, nothing on the physical plane compares to it. So once you're activated as a Christ being, you become very focused, and you move forward in developing your mission and your purpose, and and be willing to sacrifice all for the sake of humankind. So what's next? What's going on now is, because we are at the precipice, as I explained, at that cliff, all the Christ beings all over the world are starting to realize it's time for me to get busy with my purpose. And they're starting to seek each other out. And the reason why is the same reason that I'm sitting here telling you that I'm an alien, I'm an extraterrestrial soul from another solar system. A lot of people can't handle it. So part of this message is to alert those Christ candidate beings to that we have a venue, contact us, join us, and let's start preparing ourselves to eradicate this planet of those misguided souls who have completed their mission in causing total chaos and confusion on this planet. Right now, there's war, there's homosexuality, there's disease, there's starvation. All of these things that are manifesting right now is very similar to what happened in certain instances, and I'm going to talk about that later. And there was total destruction because the formula of the experiment started to go bad. Now, the misguided souls, when they evolve, the extraterrestrials, the negative extraterrestrials, who are manipulating them to test the human beings on this planet. Now, you ask, well, why are they manipulating these misguided souls? Well, the reason they're doing this is their job is to prove to the Supreme Being that human beings of planet Earth are not ready to operate their own planet. So the longer they can cause chaos and confusion, the longer they can extract natural resources from this planet and also human experiments. I did some research and found out that in several cases the United States government has negotiated with extraterrestrials in exchange for military technology. Hitler also did the same thing in World War II. A lot of the technology that they developed, it was too fast, too expeditious, and how they were able to develop high-speed jet engines and what have you when we were still flying propellers. So Hitler, the scientists, when they were dispatched at the end of World War II, when they were dispatched to Russia and to the United States, the scientists of the United States asked them, they said, how did you guys get so advanced so fast? And they responded and said, well, they helped us, in referring to the extraterrestrials. If you study the history of World War II, you also find out that fighter bombers used to notice these white balls of light that used to accompany them to the bombing range and what have you. And those white balls of light were initiated by the positive ETs, the ones that help bring the Christ beings here to help keep a balance of that World War II. And this is why Hitler and the Nazis had the technology to win World War II and conquer the entire world, but that was not the plan for the extraterrestrials. So they intervened, and if you look it up on the internet or in research, they were called the Foo Fighters. And those balls of light were meticulously integrated into the system to make sure that Hitler did not win that war, and even with all that advanced technology. And that's why we are where we are now. So again, what has happened is that the misguided souls that are being manipulated by the extraterrestrials, they're creating the same scenario of what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, Sodom and Gomorrah, all the explanations pertaining to that is basically similar to that of a nuclear bomb going off. They indicated to Lot's wife turned around and stared into. Well, if you turn around and stare into a nuclear blast, yeah, you're gonna appear to turn into a pillar of salt. Technically, you've been disintegrated, and it looks like a pillar of salt. So that's what happened with Sodom and Gomorrah, and that's why I'm here delivering this message. I'm the best thing, or the next best thing, to a UFO coming down and serving a warning that if you don't change your heading, if you don't change your ways, if you don't come together, the meat, as explained and even in the biblical aspects of the Bible, and reject the manipulation of the 1%ers, then you too will suffer the fate. What have you? Now, what are the requirements of human beings on this planet? The first part of what is required of human being is to go look into the mirror. Go look into the mirror and ask yourself that question. Am I treating people the way I want to be treated? And that will start the process of correcting the mindset or what have you. Because when you discover some of the other components of how the human soul evolved, then you will understand that if you don't treat people the way you were treated, then you're going to suffer those same consequences of your transgressions. The illusional, the misguided soul, how do you recognize them? You know, I refer to them as the 1%ers, but you recognize them with their illusional wealth, their fame and glory. They're the ones, the 1%ers that's controlling all the money. You got children, you got people going through hardship all over the world, but here you got these 1 or 2 people, or 1% of the population, hogging all the wealth. That's not balance. That's not universal balance. That's greed, selfish greed, because that demonstration of extraterrestrials that are manipulating the misguided souls to do these things is still their burden of proof to the Supreme Being that we are not ready to run our own planet. And I believe that we are, if we had all the right formulas. And that's the purpose of this message, is to provide you with the formulas so that you can eradicate this planet of those misguided souls and their control and power and illusions over your mind, where they have you doing the things you're doing on your planet. The other thing that you have to understand about these misguided souls is they don't respect their own earth mother. So if they don't respect their own earth, you do the research, they have no respect for their own earth mothers. So if they don't have respect for her, you know they don't have any respect for their mother earth. So that's why all the gasoline, the global warming, all of the oil spills and what have you, for their greed and what have you, they don't care. They will do anything to maintain that illusionary control. And the irony of is that the ETs that tells them to do this, you know, they have a free get out of jail card. They can tell human beings, well, go and do this to a nation, go and do that to a nation, and just because and they can also provide a certain level of technology to those different groups to do the things that they do. So you have to understand that they will continue to do that until the season dictates that they no longer have that reign of terror. Part of my message and my purpose for being here is to serve an eviction notice to those ETs. You've done a good job. You have divided and conquered this planet based on race, religion, and national origin, and a host of other things. But this planet has been thoroughly divided and conquered. And now we're at that precipice again of where we must make that decision of evolve or die. And that's basically where we are. Now, the misguided humans have come to a conclusion. Hey man, our dastardly deeds have basically destroyed this earth. If we don't change our heading, you know, or change the whole economic program of production, what have you, we're not going to be able to stay on this planet ourselves. So what have they done? They decided that, well, the internet then basically exposed us now. And so what we need to do is exterminate a large portion of the human race. And that's their remedy, you know, is to exterminate you and to create a new race of human beings that's totally ignorant to the realities of the universe and the laws, and so that they will serve these misguided souls. I promise you that will not work and they will not succeed. It will not be allowed. But at the same token, you human beings, you meek and faithful human beings are required to come together and start working on a plan to exposing these 1%ers, the ones that control these illusionary situations. All right, now, the con game has been exposed. I like to refer to it as the Wizard of Oz. You know, a lot of the movies that they portray are reality. They're basic situations that are designed to expose the 1%ers that work behind the curtain. One of the most profound movies that expose how those extraterrestrials are working behind it is the Wizard of Oz. Because what you had those people go through trials and tribulations, but then what happened was when the main characters finally made it to the Emperor's ball, they discovered that there was a little man behind the curtain working an illusion. And that correlation is real. That correlation is the reality of what we're working with here on this planet. All of the illusions of wealth and grandeur and pride and all of that stuff was being manipulated by a little man behind the curtain. When that little black dog pulled the curtain back, there he was. And what did he say? Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. His game was up. He was exposed. So when he confronted them, he said, hey man, my game's up. What did he do when he was exposed? He packed up in his balloon and got ready to jet out of town. Well, that's the same situation we have right now. Two things are going to happen when the human beings of this planet come together and say, hey man, we're not going along with this bull crap anymore. We now know that this whole God thing on the physical plane was manipulated by these little beings behind the curtain. So We no longer have to go on. Let's do the right thing by starting with that basic formula of looking in the mirror and saying, I'm going to treat people the way I want to be treated. Which means you're going to have to share equally. You're going to have to start implementing programs to save your children. You're going to have to look at all the doctrines that was implemented by these various churches and start reversing them. All of that technology, the Christhood candidates that I've talked about, the positive beings that were brought here, we have that knowledge to give to you, but we can't implement it until you come together and say, get thee hence behind me. The same as Satan, Jesus told the so-called Satan, what have you. I talked about the extermination. There are some other reference. There are other people out there that have testifying. If you want to verify or get more information about the illusionary, misguided souls, there is a YouTube video of Dr. Rima, and she happened to have an encounter with a elitist that decided that it's time to start thinning the herd. And thinning the herd means exterminating humans. How do they exterminate us? They're going to exterminate us through pharmaceutical drugs, through your food, through your atmosphere, and above all, war. And they've already initiated the process. They've already started putting viruses out there. They're playing games with the H1N1 that's laced with drugs that's going to cause your immune system to peak and then crash. They're trying to create this mindset of zombies, anything to destroy you, because now they can't manage you. We outnumber them 99 to 1. But yet we've been divided and conquered with all of this craziness. So therefore, they're getting away with it and what have you. So what about Satan? What about Lucifer? What about the devil? There is no such thing. You know, as I explained, these are metaphors of individuals or misguided souls that were brought here for the purpose of being imprisoned. But the real culprit behind it are the extraterrestrials that came here, that was allowed to come here by the Supreme Being to test you in order to help you to evolve. It's just like sunshine and rain are both one and the same. You need both of them to grow. It's not going to be, some days it's sunny, some days it's rain. So that's basically the whole purpose behind Lucifer and the devil, the Diablo. There's no such thing. Those any instances were the ETs back in the olden days. The ETs were prevalent all over the place, and they passed themselves off with costumes and high-tech garb to make them appear to be stronger or more powerful than us. And also they use these various illusions and technology, and of course a primitive species would think they were God and bow down and pray to them. Just to give you an instance of modern day experience, during World War II, when the United States Army started to encroach in the Pacific Theater, some of the airmen would land on some of these islands that have been obscured from technology. And when they land, the natives, and this is World War II now, this is in the 40s, the natives never seen airplanes before, they'd never seen pale men, and in some cases there were African men, African American men on those planes. And when they landed, they built landing strips, they built houses, they gave food to them. And these natives, islanders, looked at these soldiers as angels and gods, and they worshiped them. And because they brought them this technology, they brought them things that they didn't know of. And so this is the same thing that we're experiencing here on this planet, or we did in those earlier days. But now, since we have evolved and we've acquired a certain sense of technology and mathematics, people like Galileo he started charting the solar system. They have to now step back from the landscape and use stealth. They're not as obvious as they used to be. So all of these things are necessary for you to readjust your mind in order for you to evolve in order for you to reclaim your planet, to enjoy your inheritance that your Father, the Creator, or the Supreme Being, has provided for you. The season for the chaos and the confusion has ended. So, what is the root of the problem? The root of the problem is reincarnation. You know, I talk to so-called Christians every day, and they'll tell you, once you die, that's it. You can only get one life. Then that's like saying, nah, I thought they said in the Bible that we're going to have everlasting life. Well, that's the part of the biggest problem to human consciousness, is that our ability to understand how the universe works. Reincarnation was removed from the religious doctrines in 553 AD by the Catholic Church. The reason they did that is because they knew that eventually, if a human being could figure out that how I treat people in this life, in my next life, that's how I'm going to be treated. And so that was a problem, because then what would happen if a man said, goes out on a date and decides, I'm going to rape this woman and kill her and throw her away so she won't tell anybody I raped her. And if he knows that I'm going to come back in the next life and the same thing is going to happen to me, and maybe 10 more times, if the law of the universe is accurate, you get 10 times the punishment, then he would think twice about raping that woman and killing her and casting her body away. So that is the key issue here that all the religious institutions, except one, are having or did not share with the human beings in order for them to evolve. It was written in the Willie Lynch letter that the mind has a way of correcting itself. So the Willie Lynch letter encouraged the slave masters to teach your children these principles so that they can improve upon them in the future, and maybe this ignorance and this slave mentality will last 100 years, maybe 500 years. And so if we understand, if we study reincarnation and understand its application, the same way I talked about divine souls or Christ souls being incarnated into human bodies, reincarnation exists. Because guess what? The University of Virginia did a 2,500 case study on reincarnation. It's titled The Science of the Soul. And what they discovered was that there were documented cases of children having dreams of their previous lives. And in one case, they did the research and recorded down some of the names and what have you. And in one particular case of a young man, he named all his partners that were in a World War II fighter squadron. And when they did the research, they verified it. So they did a 2,500 case and concluded that reincarnation is real. So look that up, University of Virginia, on the Science of the Soul. So that key issue of reincarnation is the root of the problem. Go ahead, Snow. It's the root of the problem because if we understood specifically what the consequences of our action were, we have these sayings: what goes around comes around, and that child's been here before, and so that needs to be reinstituted. It needs to be explained to our so-called Christians, because they don't understand. They have been taught, based on that one movement by the Catholic Church in 553 AD, that was the root of the problem, why we are producing defective souls over and over again in each lifetime after lifetime, and it's causing a serious problem on this planet. So it's very important that we understand how those extraterrestrials and aliens have operated in the realm of our atmosphere. And it's also for us to understand that seasons begin and seasons end. And the basic objective here is to let you know and empower you with the fact that the season of chaos, confusion, death, and destruction, deception, that season has ended. You've been prepared now. You've suffered. Your children are suffering. So now you know what it feels like on the dark side. So you're ready now to start walking into the light. But in order for you to do that, you need to have these formulas. And again, as I've stated, you have these Christ candidates. That's these individuals that are applying for the Christhood. These are beings that are here, that are studying. They have we have all the technology necessary for you to change your planet and to reverse the negative effect that those misguided souls who actually think that they're going to build spaceships and go back into the heavens, as the way it was described, and start a war with God. And that's a metaphor of negative souls trying to go back. So consciousness of what their purpose is, trying to go back from where they come to start a problem. It's not going to happen. The technology on this planet has advanced tremendously, but it hasn't advanced that much to the point where you can supersede the divine consciousness, and their technology is far much more advanced. We dealt with the aspect of reincarnation, and it's very important that we examine that we research that we get access to the University of Virginia's records on, their research to why they conclude that reincarnation was real. So we talked about the extraterrestrials, and now that we've become more advanced and more sophisticated, that they've had to use stealth now. Because, we ask this question, how come I never see the aliens? How come well, there have been a lot of people that have experienced them. There have been a lot of humans been abducted. Part of the deal that was cut with the American government back in the 40s in exchange for the technology was that we're going to give you this technology. All we want is some minerals and food, and also we want to experiment on some of the human beings. And it took me a minute to think about, why did they ask permission of our government to experiment on other human beings? If they had the technology, they didn't have to ask for permission. All they had to do was just move forward and start experimenting. But they had to do that because the supreme being, the most advanced beings, put down laws. They had to ask you. You had to submit and give them that permission in order for them to take it. So that's something that we all, human beings and the government officials that think that we're going to continue to contain and conceal the reality of our situation here on this planet, we have to think about those things. Why did the extraterrestrials ask for permission in exchange for their technology? Why didn't they just come down like game busters and do what they do? Because there's a divine order. There's the order of the misguided souls who needs to be purified. There's the order of the Christhood souls that want to evolve and expand their horizon. And then you got the souls in the middle, the earth human souls that are developing lifetime after lifetime to acquire a level of consciousness. So what do we do now? Misguided souls or what we would call 1%ers, or I refer to them as human puppets. They are advanced enough now to know who the Christ beings or Christ candidates are. And I have experienced that beyond the average, behind most humans' comprehension. These beings have identified who we are, and what they have done is, through that free get out of jail card that the ETs have, they have implemented programs to try to contain us and to restrict our access to their illusionary monetary funds. So what we need, the few Christ beings that are on this planet, what we need now is we need assistance from the human beings of the planet, because the Supreme Being requires it. We can't come here and work the miracles for you. God will not do for man what man must do for himself. And believe me, I usually use the word supreme being, but what it boils down to, in order for you to evolve, you must learn these lessons yourself. So I'm sitting here and I'm prepared to help and assist you. And there are more like me all over the planet. Some of you are watching this video right now. You need to go to our webpage, sign up, let us know who you are, and come join us in this process of the transition from the old system of enslavement to the new system of prosperity. So what we need from human beings, we need you to participate with us. The first step, we need resources, because those misguided one percenters, they have cut off all of our money supply. They're constantly watching us. The NSA has confessed that they are monitoring different people. They're not telling you who they're monitoring, but they're especially monitoring Christhood beings. So we need resources. Send $1. Go to our website. Send $5. We don't need a lot of resources. We need resources to continue to confront them, to get the message out to you, who they are, what they're doing, and how to contain them, how to check them, how to evict them. Because once they subscribe to the dark side, once they subscribe to that formula of death, destruction, and deception, they forfeit their inheritance. So they have no inheritance now. This is your planet, and you have the ability and the authority to evict them from your planet. The ETs that stood behind them has already started to wound up their business, and they're prepared to leave Earth because they know the consequences, that if they continue to stay after a designated time, then they will be destroyed. So right now, what we're experiencing, all the chaos and confusion and the greed, what that we're experiencing right now is being manipulated by human beings that walk and talk, they use the bathroom, they drink food, they just like us. They put their pants on the same way we do. Now, but I am a soul that's here to help you. I can stay here to help implement this plan until human beings take charge of their own planet. So that's the one, the free get out of jail, or that's the code that protects Christ-like beings like myself. All right. So, part of that Christ-like code is the same one that when the Christ, in Matthew chapter 4, verse 10, when this so-called entity, they say Satan, but I believe it was just an extraterrestrial situation. He said to the Christ, "Hey man, why are you going through this Christhood thing? Why are you sacrificing yourself? Why are you putting yourself in the position to be crucified and all that?" He said, "All you have to do is just get down and worship me, and I'll give you this whole planet. I'll give you rule over this planet." And that Christ being knowing his code, we cannot take their money. We can take money, we can take resources, or receive, not take, but receive resources for you to rebuke that negative energy, but we can't take it from that being, because once we do, we violated our code. So what did the Christ say to that negative entity? Say, "Get thee hence behind me, Satan, for what is it for a man to gain the world and lose his soul?" So again, go to our website. If you are understanding the things that I'm saying, join us. If you spend money on lottery tickets, scratch-offs, getting drunk, take a few of those dollars, or going to church every Sunday. Take a few of those dollars, send it to our campaign, and I promise you it will be a safe bet, because we're going to continue to challenge these 1%ers every step of the way. And if you don't believe it, just go back and play this video again, because you've never had anybody to bring it to you quite the way I'm bringing it to you. Thank you.